Hi, friends. Welcome to another episode of Soaring Through Chaos. And as always, the reason we do this is to support each other. We are going through one of the more challenging times in our life, the pandemic, and that comes with not only health risks but also economic risks, the risk of a prolonged recession, and it's hard to predict what's going to happen. So, in amid all this, I find friends who are making sense of the situation or are trying to find meaning in the situation. And one of them is Praveen Satre. I got to know him since 1992 when I was when I was newly married, and I think so were you, right, Praveen?
Yes, yes, yes.
And then we were like, two couples meeting together, and over a period of time we all have changed our careers or fine-tuned our careers in different ways. So tell me, Praveen, you're doing some very interesting work these days. Can you tell us about what you do now and how you transitioned from pharmaceuticals into this space?
Sure. So, yeah, hi to everyone, and thanks, Shankar, for having me on this call. Before I even start my story, let me compliment and congratulate you for this initiative. I think this is a very interesting initiative,
Thank you.
and uh, and yeah, since we are discussing this in the backdrop of the pandemic, I think this is something that probably you always wanted to do, but were never able to get around to doing, right? And so maybe to
Yeah,
that
yeah.
extent, the pandemic kind of pushed you to actually get this done. And so it's good in that sense, and I think it's a very good initiative. So compliment you for that. So coming back to what I do, okay, I am in the field of what, to use an umbrella term, you could say probably management consulting. So that's an umbrella term. Of course, the term, because of the fact that it is an umbrella term, it's a very vast term. Within that, I focus largely on the people aspect. So I really help organizations work on their people and the productivity of their people. Um, and to use your language, which is the Silicon Valley language, the elevator pitch, if at all I had to use. I always say that businesses work on four M's, right? One is money, the other is material, the third M is method, and the fourth M is manpower. And manpower doesn't mean it's only man, it's obviously women also, but just that to rhyme it with the M, we are using the word manpower. So money, material, method, and manpower. These are the four M's, and the interplay of all these four M's is really what makes a business succeed, right? That's something I'm sure you would also know since you've run successful businesses so often. Now, what's happening in today's world, and especially in the past few years, a couple of decades or so, um, you probably have heard of the concept of the world is flat, right? Which
Yeah, yeah. Thomas Friedman. Yes.
correct. And then he was kind of inspired by Nandan Nilekani telling him once about how the world is getting flat. So what it really meant was we had this concept of competitive advantage. So every organization had a competitive advantage over their competitors. Correct. So that could either be because you had a lot of money, so you could use that money power to multiply your business, or you had access to materials which no one else had, or you were uniquely holding some methodology or patent because of which you did better. Now, when the world has gone flat over the past 2 decades or so, the money, the method, and the material, all three are no longer a competitive advantage. Everyone is really able to access everything, right? So if you have a good business plan, money is really not the challenge. Okay. I mean, there are people who will back you. It was earlier a case when we were growing, maybe in India, you had to know a banker, or you probably need to create a 50-page business plan and then get it passed through channels before you were able to raise finance. Today, if you really have a good plan, money is not the challenge, right? Raising money is not the challenge. The internet has again leveled the world, and you can access material from any corner of the world. No one is going to stop you. It is no longer a case that you needed to have a contact within a company, right, to to be able to access that material. And methods, obviously, there's no longer a case where if I create something today and use it as a method, no one else can. Anyone else can do it. And so the way we look at things is that the real competitive advantage that any organization today will have is the manpower that they have. It's the people in the organization who are going to make a difference. And so that's the premise on which my entire value proposition rests. So the fourth M, that's really what I call it. And within the manpower space, obviously, looking at improving performance, looking at managing competencies, training them, doing one-to-one coaching with CEOs or with other business leaders. So these are the offerings that currently I have, and through which I help organizations become that much more efficient. So I
Since
don't
we are
know if that,
already talking about manpower,
yeah,
so much is changing because of the pandemic. And I'm
right,
sure you've been observing it every day in your
yes,
among your clients, in your own work. I would love to hear from you about what's happening in that space in terms of how the virtualization or see people working from home, the
sure,
fear factor, the anxiety factor, how all these things are changing businesses.
right, right, right. So actually, this is a lot of questions in one question,
I
really,
know, so you can talk
right?
about it for the whole thing.
Yeah.
But take your
So
own
the way,
time. Yeah.
yeah. So okay, and in a country like India, it's even more complex, I think, because we have so many countries within a country, so to say. When we
Yes.
talk of India, we are talking of close to 1.4 billion people. Most other countries would not even be able to appreciate what 1.4 billion is, right? I mean, we talk of US being a big country, it is 300, 350 million, if I get my numbers correct.
Yeah, this is
We are
more than
already,
4 times.
this is 4 times, right? Other countries, and especially after the breakup of the Soviet Union and a lot of the other stuff that happened in Eastern Western Europe, I think most countries would be smaller than Indian states also. Right? So the scale is completely different. So when we are talking of what's happening to people, one needs to look at what is happening to various categories of people, really, right? Um, so out of the 1.4 billion, 1,400 million, there are probably the top 10 to 15% are really in some kind of organized activity, maybe, right? So which means we are really talking of 100 million maybe who are in some kind of organized activity or connected with some kind of organized activity. Now, there's an interesting statistic that I recently read that those who have regular jobs, so when I say regular jobs means covered by security and insurance and, with some kind of employment contract in place, um, 1 out of 4 have actually lost their jobs, right?
Wow,
They
that's
have
a
been laid,
lot.
yeah, that's a lot. They've been laid off, they have been sacked, whatever, use whichever terminology or diplomatic term. Reality is they have lost their job. And that's a big number, right? So one in 4. And we obviously know the multiplier effect. When one person loses a job, it's not only that person, but there are about 5 or 6 people, especially in a country like India, who are dependent on him or her. And so you can see how the whole thing cascades, right? The other large chunk is out of this structured ecosystem, so to say, which means they are living on a day-to-day basis, right? So they probably have a hand cart which they put up in the village square or in the town square, or they probably sell vegetables, or they probably sell the local delicacies. Um, so it could be some pakoras in the north, it could be a vada pav in Bombay, it could be some idli dosa counter in the south, or whatever else. Um, and uh, and then of course there is a large section of the unstructured workforce, who are the daily wages and the daily laborers, who do all your other stuff, managing the utilities. So from your plumbers to electricians to carpenters and whoever else. So there's a huge range, and then of course construction workers. I think that's a huge section again. Now, it's this segment which has got really, really badly hit because they have nothing to fall back on. There's no social security. The government, for all it says, is unable to do it for whatever number of reasons. And so these are the people who I think are the worst hit. And I don't know if you were here when this happened, but there was a huge migrant labor crisis that happened a couple of months back.
Yeah, I was
So
watching it from Mexico. I mean, it was very heart rendering. It was difficult to even watch what was happening.
Right. So March end we declared the lockdown, and I think initially everyone thought it would be a short-term measure, 15 days, 20 days, maybe a month, and so everyone waited it out. But then by April end, when people saw nothing was happening, they got restless. And anyway, living in a Bombay or a Bangalore or a Delhi, without anything on a day-to-day basis as earning, it was becoming more and more difficult. Plus, people back home in their villages were getting worried when they heard stories about big cities being hit very badly and so on and so forth. So the pressure was very large on these people to start moving, and so they started moving, and they started walking. I mean, we've had stories where people were prepared to walk hundreds of kilometers without even knowing whether they'll reach. So that was actually an indication that this is the segment which is getting hit the worst, right? Now they've all gone back, and I don't know if they are in a better place right now, but one really doesn't know, because again, the rural economy and the rural infrastructure is not one which can kind of sustain all these people. So that's going to be another level of challenge that we are going to face, right? Um, it's very ironic, but there's a there's a cozy section of Indian industry which is talking about the pleasures or whatever of working from home. So you mentioned working from home, so I think this is something. And suddenly we see in the newspapers, especially in the financial newspapers, about how organizations have quickly taken to work from home, and how we are reorienting ourselves towards managing stuff from home, and so on and so forth, including large organizations who have decided that people may not even come back to work till as late as end of 2021, which means we are talking of 15 months from now, right? So that's the kind of readiness that some organizations have shown, um, to allow people to work from home. But now that's again two things. What percentage of the workforce really is able to work from home? I mean, what jobs allow you to work from home, really speaking, right? If you are in a job which allows you to use your gray cells, yes, you can probably do that. But what do you do? How do you work from home when it's really your hands and feet that you are using, right? Uh, how does manufacturing work from home? It obviously can't, right? And so that's really the case which we need to be worried about. So the work from home um, is a good concept, an interesting concept, but I'm really not sure how it's going to pan out in the long term and how many people will be able to do it, right? And finally,
True.
from work from home also, you're going to service people who are eventually in the other sectors, right? So let's say IT companies. Now, when IT companies work, all of them work from home, and they can work from home very easily because of obviously technological advancements having come to that level. But now, let's say I have an IT company and I am working on a project. The project, however, is for a manufacturing company, or it's for an electricity plant, or it's for a fertilizer manufacturer, or whatever. Now, till such time as all those sectors don't come back on stream, what am I going to work from home really? Correct. So those are again concerns which we need to look at. A lot of IT companies in India, of course, work for international clients, but I think internationally also the situation is the same. One of the interesting things I'm seeing here is that this is the first time in my memory that it is not a city or a country or a region that is affected, right? For the first time, it is the 200 plus countries that make up this universe that are all impacted equally virtually, correct? So we had situations earlier where India was probably hit by something, and you had some challenges in India. There was a time post 9/11 when the US was impacted very badly, and people thought, okay, can we really look only at the US, or should we kind of de-risk our businesses and look at Europe and Japan and all that? The 2008 crisis, financial crisis, hit again the Western world, as we call it, that much more than the others. But this is the first time that it's hitting everyone. So I don't think anyone is going to get insulated. And so that's the bigger worry going forward. I don't know how the international businesses are going to look at managing this. Um, so I think that's one of the other things that I have learned, that what happens when real, this is the first real global crisis, if you call me. I don't think any other crisis we've lived through earlier has been a global crisis in the strict sense of the
Yeah,
term.
not in
So
our lifetime. I believe this
no,
has hurt people more than even the Second World War. in
True.
terms of the impact,
Yes.
there were countries that sat out of the Second World War, even the United
Yes.
States, who
Yes.
were more of a provider of arms, but there were no
Sure. Absolutely.
battles in the
Yeah.
United
Yeah.
States, in the
As a
Americas.
matter of fact, the USA did not have a single attack on the mainland ever.
No, none on the
You know.
mainland, only Pearl
Right.
Harbor in
Right.
Hawaii.
Yeah,
So
which is again not really technically mainland, and that's how they got sucked into the war in the first case, right?
correct, it is far away
And
from the mainland, 2,000
yeah, so the
miles
US did
plus.
suffer casualties. The US did suffer casualties, but that's because they sent troops out to fight, and it was Europe which was really hit.
Right, right.
And very clearly, the US became the global superpower only after World War II because all the other earlier superpowers, kind of,
You
they just
know,
withered away.
interestingly, Praveen, I hear this. There's this big thing called WhatsApp University nowadays. People get
Yes,
PhDs from WhatsApp
yes,
University
oh
now.
yes, oh yes, oh yes,
And
and you can
one of
get
the
anyone can get admission there.
anyone can
Anyone
get
can get it.
admission. All you have to do is have a phone and a WhatsApp
That's it.
account.
That's it. You're
So
right.
one
You're
of the things
right.
I'm noticing is the large scale rumors that are floating, even at executive level. There's a belief because the numbers from the United States don't look good in terms of the
True.
casualties in the pandemic or the positive, or in Europe. Suddenly, I've been hearing from India, oh, we are exempt. Somehow we don't have to worry about the pandemic. And so we will be number one. What do you think is really happening? I mean, I see health wise or even impact wise, most countries are impacted, but the magnitude may be different, and it
Yeah.
changes by time and it changes by sector, as you said, it changes by region, it also changes by age group, right?
True.
Health wise, different people may be affected at different rates, or the
Sure.
vulnerability is higher when there's
Right.
comorbidity.
Right.
So,
Yes.
anyway, it's a very complex matrix.
Yes.
As somebody working with companies, empowering people, where do you start? Are your clients calling you and saying, or are they saying just let's just worry about our own chaos? What's happening?
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Great. Good question. So let's look at first maybe what we call in management jargon a 30,000 feet view, which means the global view. And so the global view is very, very bleak. I don't want to sound so negative, but that's the reality. As you rightly said, the US has contracted, Britain has suffered its worst quarter results since I think World War II, if I read it correctly. And to come to India, there is an expected contraction in GDP. Forget growth, an expected contraction in GDP uh, between various figures that I have heard from economists between 8 to 18%, which means a -8 to a -18% contraction in GDP,
Wow, that's
which is going to be
significant.
no, no, that's going to be absolutely tragic. That's going to be absolutely tragic. So I don't know who's saying that we are going to be insulated and we are not impacted. I can't imagine a scenario like this. You can probably say that if you were not part of a global ecosystem. So you rightly said about World War II. See, one of the other important things, Shankar, we should realize was World War II, the world was not so interconnected, right?
Exactly.
It was surprisingly because of colonialism, because a lot of the European powers had colonies across. So in that sense, the other colonized countries at least got impacted by World War in some way. But still, the connections were not that deep. Right now, I think the connections are very, very deep, correct? And I think apart from just people who are all over the world, it's also business loops, business cycles, which are all dependent on one another. So I don't think it's very easy to say that we are not going to get impacted. That would be foolish if you ask me to use that word to say that we are not going to be impacted. Um, and to that extent, the problems will get even more multiplied in weaker nations, right? And so this is a real big fear. And uh, if you ask me about what organizations are doing, yes, I am seeing two extreme responses. So there are organizations which have clearly said, you know what, let's not talk all this right now. Let's be honest, because when survival is really a challenge, I'm sure you don't look at all these initiatives. Right? I mean, this is these come. We come to a large extent. We come at the tail end of the development cycle, if at all one might say that. Right. So the first thing is to just keep the business running, if at all. And so there are organizations which have kind of taken a knee-jerk reaction and said, okay, let's not talk now. It's not going to happen. It's going to take a long time. Interestingly, the numbers may be small, but there are many, many businesses which have actually utilized this opportunity to go back to the drawing board. And that's very interesting. There are people who have said that, okay, this is the first time ever in the last so many years that I am running a business that I have got time for myself. The first month or two when, there was a total lockdown, you could not even go out of the house. You couldn't even enter the office, even if it was next door. A lot of business owners got the time to really introspect. And it was the first time many of them also got back to the drawing board and said, okay, what is it that I'm doing? I'm running a business. I grew the business. It's reached a particular level. But am I happy? Is this the business I really dreamt about? Is this the business I set out to really, to grow? And then a lot of them found answers and said, okay, this could be a good time to do what is called a reset in your business, right? And so interestingly, there have been a couple of assignments which have come out of this, which normally one would not expect. And, that was surprising because this is not the scenario really when you do this. But then it was also a time when, as I said, people started looking at everything anew from a fresh perspective. So it's been a mixed bag, if you ask me. But largely, it's a situation which is a little scary. There's hardly any doubt at all.
Yeah, so now one of the things that I'm a big believer in, and that's the reason I started talking to people like you, is that normally when things are going comfortably well, when things are smooth, changes are incremental, right? Because
Correct.
there's no compelling reason to change, especially
Sure.
if you're a profitable business, if you're doing well, or if you're a
Right.
person on a good career track, there's no reason to make drastic changes. All
Sure.
changes will be incremental, and don't reshuffle things. Make sure that if there's any pain, keep it under the radar and so on. But
Right.
right now, that's not true for a lot of businesses or for a lot of individuals. As you said, in the organized sector, more than 25% of the jobs have been impacted. And I know many more have reduced income. They have been given pay
Sure.
cuts.
Yes. Yes.
And
Yes.
then in the unorganized or what do you call the less organized sectors, we don't even know the magnitude.
True.
And this is across the board around the world. So the question is it possible for people to, as you said, go to the drawing board and come up with a new way of looking at their career, maybe the new way of looking at their own consumption and what they're doing, why they're doing it? Because you've been in the business of helping people find out the manpower business, which is understanding what people do with their time and with their energy. What would you suggest people do? Like college students not being able to go to college. A lot of things have been impacted, right?
Right.
So
Right.
how can people utilize this time better?
So actually, people. Okay, this is again something interesting because the human race again is a very interesting species in the entire animal kingdom. We are the only ones who are able to adapt that quickly. And so I think we've used digital tools wherever possible, very, very quickly. So I would say that to a large extent, a lot of people who are aware are already doing the stuff that they need to be doing. Real problems in terms of, yes, as you rightly said, college students not being able to go to college, not being able to enjoy the campus life, the canteen chats or whatever. That's a genuine concern. But it's also a case where today, because of technology, there are a whole lot of other um, what we could say collateral learnings that you can take up. And the worry is not so much about the college students because the college students have a long runway ahead of them, right? They are just starting and they can look at changing track uh, very easily. The worry I think is going to be for people who are caught in that middle trap, as we call it, where you have responsibilities and you really don't know what you're going to be able to do because it's not again, Shankar, a case where I can pick up a new skill and make myself ready because I still don't know what is the skill that the world wants in today's
That's true.
scenario.
That's true.
Right. So, right. So if it was a case where I knew that my sector is suffering, and so I say, okay, let me reskill myself for a new sector. That's possible. Like, let's say in India, 20 years ago, the telecom sector was in an extremely underdeveloped state. I mean, we hardly had any telecom, right? Or even the insurance sector, because we were largely having only government concerns in the telecom and insurance sector. Now, if I wanted to upskill myself, I could take that as some kind of a future prediction and work on that. And in maybe 2-3 years, make myself ready and then, hit that sector and grow very fast. But that's because I was in a sector which was not doing well and I had another alternative sector. Right now, everyone around is looking at the same situation. And there's no way to really find out what it is that the world is going to look at in the next 6 months to 1 year or maybe later also. Correct. So I think when extremely intelligent people are also not able to predict, I think it would be very unwise on my part to even say what is likely to happen. Utilization of time, yes, there are people, as I said, who okay. So take the same example. There have been business leaders I'm seeing who are in a state of panic. So they are fighting fires on a daily basis. You talk to them and the answers I get is, oh, you know what, every day there's some problem. This client is calling up, he's screaming, I'm not able to deliver. My people are not aware. They are not available. Someone doesn't have connectivity and so on and so forth. Now, these are all real concerns. One is not saying that that's untrue. But as I said, rather than panic and manage it on a day-to-day basis, can you actually go back to the drawing boards like some of the more intelligent people are doing and look at your entire business from a fresh perspective? Possible to do it, I would suspect. Not that it's not possible. Maybe a little difficult, but yes, certainly possible to do it. So that's really the way one would need to manage it. Just to touch upon one interesting point, which is the work from home, since you had mentioned it. See, this work from home is again such a nice concept, but in India, it can be quite a nightmare for some people, because
Yes.
Our homes are not designed for work. I mean, no homes should be technically, because how do you otherwise separate it from work? But if nothing else, at least internationally and in most advanced economies, you have space in the house, right? So some space can be converted into a workspace. In India, there's no such concept. I mean, everything melds into everything and everything kind of mixes with everything else. So there's no such thing as work from home. And physical space, constraints on broadband connectivity, technology, all of that really hits you very, very badly. And the people who are sitting and making those work from home policies often are not even aware, because the homes they are sitting in are comparatively comfortable, right? So they're not even looking at it. Well, thankfully, I believe a few somewhat enlightened organizations are now looking at some kind of a work from home policy, which also allows certain allowances, and these are actual money allowances, to set up certain parameters, certain systems within your home, which can enable you to work. So it could be about a better connectivity, better broadband, better laptops, or whatever else it may be, or setting up something resembling a workspace, workstation, or whatever. But again, how many organizations are doing it? I really don't know. So that's one. The second thing is, because it's work from home and you are available, I've heard senior people also complaining that now I don't know where work stops and where my other life starts.
Very true. Very true.
So the term today that they are using is not work from home. They are saying it is not WFH, which is work from home. It is more of living at work.
Oh no, living at work.
So that's the terminology, that you are 24/7 living at work.
Yeah.
And so the complaints are that someone calls me at 9 o'clock at night, and this is a senior person telling me. So he says that someone calls me at 9 o'clock at night. Earlier, if they called, at least they would start with an apology saying, I'm sorry to call you this late, and so on and so forth. Now, because they assume you are home, there's not even an apology. They just start the conversation straight away.
Yeah. You can't give the excuse that I have to go out somewhere.
Precisely. You can't say I'm driving, I am caught in a jam, or I'm outside, or whatever else. So all of that is the funnier part of work from home. And people are actually more stressed out, it seems now. Though of course today there is some kind of equilibrium that has been achieved, I suspect, in this work from home scenario. But it is tough, and it's tough on a lot of people, those who have to manage the household plus this, and it's quite a mess.
That reminds me, for me, work from home, I used to do workshops creativity and leadership workshops. I used to go to everywhere from tribal areas to universities around the world even. So
Yeah.
now I'm working from the dining hall. I'm literally
Right.
working from my dining table because
Sure.
that has the best internet connectivity, and I can't get the quality of videos anywhere else for
Right.
video
True.
recordings.
True.
So yeah, it's narrowed down, and every once in a while I have to get up and stretch and go out, literally.
Yep.
Otherwise, I'll go crazy. And if there's a quarantine in my neighborhood, then I reduce my work to keep sanity.
I agree.
but but this is because I'm doing this as a hobby or a freelance thing. I'm not reporting to anyone.
True.
It's only my friends I'm reporting to. But I cannot even imagine what I would do if I had a paid job or if I was running my own company. What you're
Right.
talking about is those real scenarios where you not only need money, but you also have to make payroll for others in
Yeah.
many cases. So
Yeah.
in your own case, you are a management consultant and you have this vast area that you've been working in. I'm sure you are traveling before. So how has your life changed personally in terms of work and this living at work? Has that happened
Right.
to you as well in Bombay?
Right. So, so living at work is not so much a concern because, as you rightly said, since I don't have a core team or I'm not reporting to someone, it's not a case where there's so much work pressure. So I'll be very honest. It's a case where I'm keeping myself busy, really speaking, through a lot of the learning that I'm trying to use by a lot of reading, by attending a whole lot of webinars or whatever else that is there on offer. Um, so for me, it's not so stressful, and work in that sense is there. But I would not say that I'm very much stressed out because of that. There is work happening. Yes, there were some projects which were earlier already happening in the offline world. We've tried to convert parts of them into the online mode, and wherever it has been possible, we've done it. As I said, new assignments have come where we have done entirely everything in the online mode. And so technology, if it was not there, I'm just wondering if this happened 30 years ago, what would have happened? It's an absolute nightmare to think about it. Though of course, maybe being the human race being what it is, even there we would have found some way of maybe managing it. Yes, what is impacted is the travel part, without doubt. So there was a case earlier where extensive travel would happen. Um, that has completely stopped. So this must have been the longest single stretch when no travel has happened. I'm sure for a long time. Um, the positive aspect of it is that because of that, I'm probably eating better, eating healthier, and I actually have lost weight. Which is which is very interesting because the earlier if you saw a lot of memes and cartoons that were going around was about once you are at home and you're not moving out, then people would god so much that they would actually put on weight, and there were all these funny cartoons where people were not able to get out of their main door because of that reason and stuff like that once
Yeah.
the lockdown opened up. But in my case, thankfully, it's been the other way around. Spending a little time on self, I think exercising that much more, physical exercises, which earlier was very erratic. Hopefully, because of the time, it's been a little more disciplined now. So those have been some of the positive aspects. The negative aspects, of course, see, like, a business like ours is all about people. So it means going out and meeting, right? And there's no way any online medium can replace a face-to-face meeting, correct? uh, for all that we do and all that I myself am praising the digital world. Uh, the reality is that I don't know if this has to continue for too long. How we will end up, I really don't know. I really don't know
Yeah,
because
yeah. In fact, it was interesting. I was talking to yesterday to the founding director of IIT Hyderabad, and he's a very innovative person, brought in a lot of innovation in education. I was
yeah,
asking him in what ways are people benefiting or learning during the pandemic. He said, first 1 month was a reset. After 2 months, we did webinars. He says, 5 months is a long time, and we know that it could be stretched much longer. There's no
yes,
way to predict. But
very true.
this is where I don't want to sound pedantic or anything, but a lot of the work that consultants do is helping people manage chaos, or how can they thrive on chaos, or how they can go beyond chaos. And we also know that this discomfort that we are going through,
Right.
unpredictability that we are going through, creates new opportunities which are not predictable. And we are still in the midst of this unpredictability zone. But
Sure.
hopefully, it's not going to be forever. Hopefully, over the next few years, things will stabilize. Have you considered, from all the lessons learned, from the impermanence of life itself? You know, you and I, since the time we last met, have lost even near and dear ones. I
Right.
lost my mom just a year and a half ago, and life goes on. We learn from
Right.
it, we go beyond the grief, and so on. So right now, I see all of us are in a grieving phase in some ways,
Right. Right.
grieving careers, grieving even school days for school and college students, grieving lack of daily wages for the informal sector, all kinds of challenges that are going through.
Sure.
But do you see beyond the grieving what the new reality may look like? And therefore, how can people prepare for that? I know I'm asking these vague questions. I don't have an answer. I don't have a definitive answer at all. But
Correct.
maybe since you've been advising dozens, if not hundreds of organizations, maybe you can guide us a little bit there.
Yeah. So again, it would be very tempting to say that I'm some kind of a person who can steer, who can see the future and all that. I'm not remotely anyone like that. So I'm very, very candid in saying that I don't think there is any one piece of advice which is going to work for all. Even in the normal scenario, one size fits all doesn't work, right?
That's true. That's true.
This particular scenario, Shankar, I'm finding something very interesting. See, there are people who have career challenges. There are organizations or businesses which have their unique business related challenges. There's one organization which is going through a bad phase. Advising them in a normal scenario is still easier. Why? Because everything else otherwise in that sector, in that business vertical, or in similar organizations is doing well. So just to give an example, if let's say I'm in the healthcare sector, but my organization is not doing well, the rest of the healthcare sector is reasonably doing well. All right. So if I'm a manager in an automotive company, but I'm not doing well, my career is not doing well, or my organization for some reason is not doing well, I have examples where other organizations or other careers similarly are doing well, right? So we use the concept of developing what competencies are needed in the successful, or what competencies have been used to make it successful, and then try to transfer those competencies to the not so successful people or sectors, right?
True. True.
Today, I don't have any model to say what are the successful competencies, because no one has really tackled it, right? So this is again the very unique concern that I'm seeing. What model do we base anything that we talk about on? Correct. So the thing, however, that I am realizing is that, of course, because there's no model doesn't mean you don't do anything, right? That's also
Exactly.
not, that's not also not the best way of looking at it. But so try to be as much clued on to what successful companies are doing. And so to that extent, I think the real way of managing it would be to be as clued on to the to the knowledge dissemination sector, if at all one were to use that word, where people are sharing their experiences, they're telling us what's happening, and get some kind of real time inputs on, okay, so what's happened when the first lockdown opened up, or the unlock 1.0 happened, then unlock 2.0 happened. So what are organizations doing? What are some of the concrete steps that they are taking? What are some of the specific measures that they have adopted when workplaces have opened up? And what can you do as a first step, to kind of make your workplace that much safer and make your people that much more comfortable? And look at saying, okay, using some of those learnings, can we develop something in our space or in our client space, and work accordingly. Um, and of course, a lot of other work is something which I'm pushing for very hard. As I said, again, not all organizations are buying it, and that is the fact that this new way of working is here to stay. I think that's the biggest learning I want everyone to take. which is that life is not going to go back to your pre-lockdown times for a very, very long time, for a very long time, right? And organizations sadly still think, अरे ये तो महीने भर की बात है, तो 2 महीने में ठीक हो जाएगा. People
That's
tell me,
true.
once things come back to normal, no, then maybe around Diwali things will pick up. So we have this thing, Diwali, festive season, Navratri, all that. So it's like, after October, once things normalize, then we will do this and we'll do that. Now, I hope people have started recognizing and realizing that this time there's no Diwali, unfortunately. So maybe if at all you're talking of Diwali, it would be a 2021 Diwali, which would probably be some kind of semblance of the earlier life, if at all. And so currently what organizations would really do well, if you ask me, completely unsolicited advice, but if at all I had to give, is to realize that they are in this for the long run. And the way they were doing business earlier is not going to work. So I think offices are out. You might have very skeletal staff in offices. So you're going to have to monitor remotely. Huge concern. You are now asking people to log in at 10 and leave at 6 and stuff like that. I think that's all useless. Frankly, it's not really the effort that you are putting in as the output that needs to be measured, right? There's a very unfortunate phenomenon in Indian companies and specifically in some of the smaller family-run businesses, which is that loyalty and work is measured by the effort that you put in.
Clock time,
And,
yeah.
Sadly, not by the output. So if he comes in by 9 o'clock, stays late, he's always there, comes on a weekend when he's free. Those are the kind of behaviors that are rewarded. But is he really giving that much output? Is he really as productive? I think those are questions that you need to now ask, and all the more reason now because you're not able to see people. Bosses have a huge problem. Indian bosses specifically, or even I'm sure internationally also, they want their people to be in front of them, right? They want them to be sitting there. So the boss is sitting here and he's seeing his entire army or whatever you call them, his paltan as we would call in the army, in front of him. Now he's not able to see anyone, so he has a big problem. That's when actually we say, okay, forget the fact that you're not able to see them, at least see what it is that they're doing. Have you told them clearly what is expected from them? Are the deliverables clear? Have you given everything in a measurable format? Are you able to monitor the relevant aspects only? Don't bother whether he is working at 9 in the morning or 9 at night. As long as you wanted him or her to give you something in 48 hours, has the turnaround time been actually 48 hours, or is it that after a week also the person is still not able to deliver? Right. So I think those are really the questions and the focus that you should shift towards. And that's really my focus nowadays, to help organizations understand this. But still, sadly, organizations are sometimes not just picking up this, and that's going to be. And let's see. I think another couple of months, and when things will become clearer, maybe organizations will realize that no, this is not going to change so quickly.
Yeah, in fact, I admire your humility. A lot of people are trying to predict the future, including me, and are failing to do so. It was 15th August Independence Day, 4th of July in America, Independence Day, or
Right.
some people think it'll end after the elections in America.
Oh, yeah.
Or, there are these markers, and Corona has no clue. The coronavirus couldn't care less, or it's not even
Absolutely.
like
No,
they are
no.
doing a battle against human beings. They are trying to find their life, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
here
yeah,
we are trying to
absolutely.
figure out what to do with our life.
Yep.
It is a complex problem, and I'm glad you're not trivializing it or oversimplifying it. Just saying, get more prepared, be more clued in, watch what's happening, be more present to what's happening. Yeah, it's not easy at all. It's like losing a faculty, not
Yeah,
just a person,
absolutely.
losing a portion of
Yeah,
our, like after a stroke, how do you recover?
correct.
Depends on what happened. And right now we're still in the middle of it, the moving parts.
Right.
Well,
So the
yeah,
plus point, if at all, sorry to interrupt, the plus point,
yeah,
if at
please
all,
get,
is that everyone is going through it. Everyone
yes,
is
it's
going
not
through it.
like one person.
Sure. So, when we talk to salespeople, they say, what, sales is a function which is very, very, a physical function, so to say. You need to meet your clients, you need to be face to face, you need to influence them across the table and stuff like that. They say, now we can't do it. So we say, yes, that's a reality. But then the other reality also is that all your competitor salespeople also are suffering in the same, in the same manner. So now it's a battle between you and your competitor in terms of how you are able to utilize this ecosystem that much better, right? So he's also not able to meet, I am also not able to meet, but then can I do something better in the online format? I think those are the kind of approaches that will work better rather than sit back and say, okay, you know what, I can't do anything because I'm not able to go out of the house and so on and so forth. So that
So
would be one
Praveen,
way in which one can tackle it
yeah,
better.
one of the things I've noticed, and I know this, there's no such thing as the world is going to go this way or that way,
True.
especially given the chaos. But a lot of small businesses are complaining that the big ones have an unfair advantage right now. And I know this may not be true. That's why I want your opinion on that. They believe the smaller people who have smaller businesses, they cannot suddenly add automation. They cannot suddenly provide the furniture, for example, for their employees to work from home, or they cannot say shift things around. They cannot lay off many people. So they feel that the bigger companies with the bank line of credit, whatever, can play around with the numbers, can reduce their staff, can become more efficient, can play on the manage the brand. The brand is very strong in many cases, right?
True.
So they can use all that and consolidate and even take over the smaller fish. And so, which I know is not, and the whole truth, the bigger companies cannot change overnight either.
True.
So, what
True.
do you think about this? Is it true that the size of the business matters in this? It's like a massive earthquake is going on and all of us are affected. But is it true that the bigger fish, the bigger companies can do things better in some ways than the smaller ones? What have you
Um,
observed?
so again, I think early days, and as you rightly said, it's not a binary, where you say that only the big ones will survive and the smaller ones will not. The big ones certainly have some advantages, but those advantages will last out how long could be a question to really ask. You may have a fatter bank balance, you may have better lines of credit, but then your expenses also are, that much more, right? So one doesn't know how long that would really last. What the bigger businesses probably have is better lobbying power, if at all one were to say that. Lobbying power,
Oh, yeah,
lobby
yeah.
with
Yes, yes.
lobby with the governments and lobby with the powers that be, so to say. But then they have always done that. They didn't need a pandemic to do it, right? Post
That's true.
2008 financial crisis, you saw how there was this interesting story about automobile company owners flying in their private jets to DC and lobbying with the government for bailout packages. Right? So,
Yeah, that
so
hasn't changed one bit.
correct. So
Pandemic
that
or no pandemic. Yeah.
and precisely. So that is something which the large organizations may have. Um, and which is not to say that the small organizations are not suffering, but then the small organizations also have that flexibility. I mean, you were talking about laying off people. Many of the small organizations don't even have formal agreements, employment agreements. So in that sense, if you want to, you can well wriggle out of such a scenario. It's a different story. You don't want to do that. um,
That's
because the larger organizations, as you rightly said, no one knows who's running them. It's not a case where one person or a group of people or a family runs it, right? They just run like that. And we've all worked with large organizations or inside large organizations, and I always end up wondering, how is it that these organizations run? I mean, who's running them with the kind of uh, chaos and at times petty egos that run them? It's an absolute wonder that they still run. Correct.
that's true.
For yeah, for smaller organizations today, yes, the only thing is they will need to change that much more. I think that's the biggest learning, and I think that's an area which specifically, again, I may be making a wrong statement if I limit it only to India. I'm sure it happens everywhere, but Indian business owners specifically, again, the smaller business owners, the family managed business owners, they are not people who so easily take any advice or believe that they can also be proven wrong, etc., etc. And that could be because historically they have run a business, they have done well, and so somewhere there is this belief that I should not, rock the boat. I should not change my policies. I should keep running the business in the same way as I was running it earlier. That won't work. That won't work. You also have limited resources, and you will have to start taking some tough calls, so to say. And if that doesn't work, then the smaller businesses are going to get impacted even more. So the fight really, if you ask me, is not so much small business and large business or stuff like that. It's about mindsets really. If you
That's
have that,
true.
if you have that flexible mindset, if you look at it as saying, okay, fine, let me see what best I can do out of this and let me change myself first, right? That is really what is going to be the surviving tactic only, whether large or small. So even large businesses, see, large businesses died even when they did not change, right? Even earlier.
Oh, yeah, yeah, and it's still happening. The big
Yeah, absolutely.
companies in many countries are
Absolutely.
actually
Sure.
filing for bankruptcies. So it's
Right.
not,
And
it's
the
just a
story
rumor.
is well known that Fortune 500 companies, ever since the list started coming out somewhere in the 60s or 70s, I think there have been some 7,000 companies overall in that list. Um, Out of the 7,000, if I remember again my figures correctly, a few hundred only are the ones which are still there, which are surviving. I mean, forget in the list they are even surviving. So many of them have
True,
just
true,
back. So
true.
large organizations also die. Large organizations also die, and they some of them will die probably in this scenario also. And if you ask me at one level, based on what we just discussed earlier, the larger organizations are probably going to face a bigger issue because no one is really running them, right? If at all I want to bring about a cultural change in my own company and as a family managed business, I can do it because I am the one who wants to run it, right? No one is going to ask me. I have 50 people, 500 people with me. I can ask all of them tomorrow onwards to change based on the way I change.
That's true.
But when I look
That's
at a
true.
large company which is employing 200,000 people, how am I going to bring who's going to bring a change? Who's running that company? We
Yeah,
really don't
yeah.
know. And so they also would face their own challenges. So I don't think it's so much a big versus small as the mindset issue. Someone who has that flexible mindset, they are likely to survive. This is, of course, only a prediction, and I don't know how it will work out in the long run again.
It reminds me like it's managing a big country versus a small country. Some
Hmm.
of the smaller countries that have tried to manage well seem to have done well, which is like
Right.
Norway or Sweden or even New Zealand. And we cannot even compare them with a country like India,
Hmm.
where like the entire population of Sweden is half the population of Bombay.
Hmm.
So, so it's not even fair to compare the sizes and the complexities of the business. Well, again, I'm so grateful we talked. We haven't had an opportunity to talk at length like this. The last time we talked like this was probably 2002 when we were driving from LA to San Jose.
Right. I remember
Normally,
that.
we don't
Yes.
get time like this because there's
Hmm.
always something to do. There's some
Hmm.
phone call to return or some marriage or something to attend, and that's one thing we do have now. At least, yeah, we have lesser excuses now.
That's
And
right.
again, if somebody wants to get hold of you or they want to learn more from your experiences and to really like be a sounding board or something like that, how best are there easy ways that they can get hold of you?
Oh,
Is there a
easiest
website
direct.
or where? How can they
Oh, yes.
find you?
Yes, yes. So there is a website that I have where some of the work that we've done has been showcased. There are some case studies, which I have put up. Um, so if there is some way we can share those notes with this chat,
Yes,
then that would
yes.
be
If you have a URL, then I can easily share it along with this video on YouTube and
sure.
on other media. And also, if there's maybe the easiest, maybe a LinkedIn profile, I can share
There you
your
go.
LinkedIn profile. So if anybody wants to directly connect, they can do
Right.
so. And this is
Yeah.
not an advertisement. I'm just talking to my friends about what's going on, the complexities of it. So it's just helping or supporting each other find our way. It's like, I had a long time ago, I had a friend who actually was blind in one eye, and he was
Oh,
talking about learning the Braille way. He was an inventor of 3D graphical technologies. He did not
wow.
have vision in one eye, and he therefore could see. And people would ask him, "How do you see with one eye? How can you see 3D? Because, as you know, there are
True.
limitations."
True.
And he said, "I have the mind's eye. I'm able to see
Right.
things
Right.
that I can't,"
Right.
because he had 3D vision at one time, now it's limited. And he called it doing entrepreneurship the Braille way, feeling your
Mm-hmm.
way.
Okay.
Of course, we can talk in these metaphors, but the situation is still very complex. And
That's good.
so please stay in touch. And if there's a need, if there's more questions, if a lot of questions pop up, we can have a follow-on discussion, Praveen. I'm grateful for your
I would
humility in
be,
saying, I don't have most of the answers. This is what it is, and describing things as they are rather than sugarcoating.
yeah, because I think one needs to be realistic. It's our job to, you know, to say it as it is, rather than trying to sugarcoat. I think sugarcoating has led to more grief than happiness at times.
That's true.
And so in mature societies we should not be doing it, if you ask me. um, so it's been a great experience, Shankar, talking to you. I want to turn the tables a bit before we end, however, and I want to ask you as to what is it that you have learned in the past few months, and how has life treated you? And of course, I know about one thing that you have done, which is the conversation we are having now. But why don't you share something in terms of what you went through and what do you see in the future?
Well, actually, I decided I was doing, as you know, I was doing a bit of work in India. My goal was to find places where I could be of help, because India is still a developing nation. We have so many people with almost 1.4 billion people, or
Right.
140 crores. There's so
Right.
much to do. And as you know, when we went to school, our education was given almost for free. You were at
Very
MSU
true.
and I was in IIT and all. I had to pay practically no fees. It
Sure.
was like 200, 300 a year. So there's
Yes.
that overwhelming feeling of gratitude of giving back. That's what brought me to India. But when I
Right.
saw, even before the pandemic, I saw there was so much chaos. I said, I need to really learn how to deal with chaos. So I said,
Okay.
okay, let me go around the world and see how other countries are dealing with it. So I started with South Korea. Before I reached there was the pandemic. Everybody was in a mask, and they
Okay.
said if I am tested positive, I'll be quarantined indefinitely. I didn't know anybody there, so I went to San Francisco. Within 3 weeks, the pandemic came there too, and I knew I was tipped by my friends. If I want to leave, leave right now, because once
Okay.
they put shelter in place, you can't go. So I went to Mexico, developing country again, similar kind of challenges or different challenges, but a developing country, so developing nation, and I didn't know Spanish much. So they didn't have, interestingly, they did not have a lockdown like we had in India. So India
Okay.
went into a lockdown, California went into a lockdown. So I had to learn immediately, I had to learn Spanish. So I did.
Okay. Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
3 months every day, Duolingo and online. I connected with people online. That's when the online conversations began. I
Right.
also had to learn cooking, and the reason is there was a woman who was cooking, but
Okay.
she had she showed signs of corona.
Okay.
So I told her, I'll take care of your money, don't worry, but please don't come. And as you know,
Yeah.
that's not a function that can be outsourced. So
Right.
I
Right.
started cooking. So I learned Indian and Mexican cooking. And the third thing was many friends, because I was alone and I didn't know most people there. I knew a few, but we were all self quarantined for
Sure.
safety.
Sure. Sure.
Being in a foreign nation, not knowing enough language, I had to be more careful also. But it really put my all the work I'm doing to test. Is it possible to grow through chaos? Is it possible to live life meaningfully? Is it possible to create community? All those open questions had to be answered by living
Sure.
it. So it was a great experience. And I'm now glad I'm back in India. I decided to come to India instead of going to California,
Okay.
because my wife was here, Seema was here too. But it's been a great experience and a lot of humility. I used to have this opinion that maybe so many things are broken in India, it's hard to help. I saw so many things are broken around the world, especially as I
Very true.
traveled around.
Very true.
So it
Very true.
brought a level of the intellectual arrogance that I had, that I know has been tamed.
Wow.
Like I
Wow.
saw
That's
your
very.
humility, and here's my confession. I know very few real answers. And next time I see somebody suffering, or an organization that's not doing well, or a school that doesn't have the so-called latest and greatest techniques, I have a lot to learn from them also, because
Very true.
nobody wants to sabotage their own organization or their own community or their
True.
own school. There are compelling reasons why things happen the way they do. I saw that in Mexico, I saw that in the US when I went back. And as you know, the mishandling of healthcare is not unique to any one country.
Very
There's
true.
suffering
Very
in
true.
many, many places. So it made me humble. My arrogance about I know the answers is, I think, diminished at least 90%. So that's been my experience.
That's great. Now, if and when we start traveling, as we were earlier, which is the first country you would like to visit?
I'm planning to go to Africa, and for various reasons. There are places in Africa where the population density is low. The challenges are big, but the challenges are there everywhere. And I've never visited the place. I've heard a lot. Um, Going to the United States is good, but I could as well stay in India. So not much different. So I'm really, yeah, that pretty much sums it. But again, that's a dynamic question in the sense the answer to that may change in a few
Yeah,
weeks.
obviously. I know. That's how it is.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and how are you keeping yourself currently busy? Obviously,
Oh,
travel
believe
within
it or
India is
not,
also not happening.
yeah, the interviews are taking somewhere between, and editing and all, 6 to 8 hours easily.
Okay.
I have to keep myself physically fit. I do something called dance, healing dances. So
Wow.
I've been doing that. I've been encouraging others to do, just posting the videos. Cooking, I do
Mm-hmm.
cook now regularly, even when Seema is around, and she's great. She's happy that at least I can cook after all
Yeah.
these years of trying to nudge me to cook. 30, more than 30 years.
Okay.
Yeah, that keeps me really busy and talking to friends and really learning from them. For the first time, I've become a much better listener for the first time in my life.
Have you converted any of your earlier trainings or teachings to the online mode, and is there any such work that
Um,
you're doing?
I've tried, honestly, especially like leadership trainings and creativity.
Sure.
But the
Yeah.
limitations are significant because I was relying on unconventional methods such as using movement and dance and music, which is harder. Also, emotional and social learning, which requires contact and being
True.
around people. So
True.
being on a Zoom conference call, it's far limited. So for
Very true.
example, people who work in somatic processes are able to give instructions saying, touch yourself, understand how you're feeling, go to your heart. Yeah, it's highly limited. So I have to be honest, I'm not an expert at these alternative methods. I use them, but it's much easier face to face. My teachers who are into, say, somatic processes, movement therapies, um, emotional, like learning through, uh, being with each other, are doing that, and I'm learning from them. So
Okay.
I've suspended the workshops I used to do face to face, and with social distancing, it's much harder. But
True. Very true.
this has been a great humbling experience for me, that many things I thought I could do no matter what don't work right now. And just like what you said, I have stopped assuming things now, and I'm saying, let me encounter reality as it is. So, yeah.
Very true. Very true. Yeah. That's good. That's interesting, and one really doesn't know when things will really come back to normal. But
Or
some
what the new
indicators,
normal will be.
yeah, the someone in between coined the term the new abnormal. Actually, it is not really the normal. So this is probably the new abnormal. But we
Yeah.
need to live with it, and
So,
it's
in fact, talking about new memes, it used to be fear of missing out or FOMO because, oh,
yeah,
there's a party or there's a workshop to do here and all. And now
yeah,
it's FOZO, fear of zooming out.
yeah,
Because a meeting may get called at some random time and you're available, or your boss knows you're available, but you don't want to do it. And now what do you do?
right,
So
correct,
it's getting more complicated for sure.
very true,
Well,
very true.
again, thanks. I'm still recording, so I'll just say goodbye to everybody. And again, I keep it flex hours because I know people have, there's no like number of deadlines have vanished in people's lives.
Yeah,
People have
true.
more time also in some cases. So I record as long as people need to speak, and it's great.
Sure.
It's like
Sure.
doing it on chai. There were no deadlines.
Precisely, yeah. So conversations like these don't have an agenda, and they can't really
This,
be
yeah,
bound by a script or by time.
exactly,
And
exactly.
that's one of the advantages in today's world, that you have that time available, right? So might as well that
Yes,
you really share.
yes.
So as I
And
said, thanks for having me, because I must appreciate again that this is a great initiative that you have taken,
well,
and
it's an experiment, really. It's an experiment, and how much can we learn from each other? And there was a 12-year-old girl I interviewed from Pakistan,
okay.
Raheen Fatima. I learned more
Hmm.
from her than so-called experts like me, even because she's seeing things with a certain degree of innocence that we are not able to.
Very
In
true,
fact, as I
very true.
told you, I would love to talk to Maitreyi, your daughter as well, because again, the same thing, that innocence,
Correct,
that
correct.
simplicity, that like wonderstruck eyes, looking at the pandemic also as, wow, there's a new thing happening, and how can I
True,
contribute?
true.
It's less among us because we are
Yeah.
more or less fixed in our ways.
And we tend to complicate matters at times. They find it that much simpler, so
Yeah,
that's
yeah. The serendipity element is actually more in them. And so
very true.
I'm talking to people of various ages. I'm going to be interviewing Rohan Rao, again, another young man tomorrow, because
Okay.
again, like he went to New York City in the midst of all this to create
Right.
documentaries in
Wow.
during the pandemic right now. So I'm
Sure.
curious to hear his story as well.
No, there are a lot of heroes who are doing great work, at this time, or who were doing during the critical phase. And so, Vikas Khanna, the celebrated chef, uh,
Oh,
he,
really? I want to
he
learn
he
about
fed
that.
he fed close to, I don't know, million people or so
That's
in
right.
India.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
and then you had this actor here who helped send these migrants back home. When he found that they were actually walking all the way back to their hometowns, he
Yeah.
organized the transport and the buses and stuff like that. So there have been people who came into the limelight at times like these, and I'm sure no one could have planned all this. So at times, and
Yeah.
the best part I know is, like, there was, especially when we were in college, or maybe towards the earlier part of our careers, people would always say you make a 5-year plan and a 10-year plan and a 20-year plan. And one of the buzzwords in the 90s and the early part of this century was Vision 2020, right? And this is
I
so ironic.
know. Isn't that
So ironic.
interesting?
I mean, this is so ironic. Because Vision 2020 was, where do you see yourself in the year 2020? Because 2020 rhymed well and so on and so forth. And who could have imagined what 2020 was going to be? So to that extent, yes, I think it's a good, humbling experience for everyone. Uh,
In fact, I've been
so,
asking myself the question, will do you want hindsight to be like 2020?
yeah, precisely.
So,
Will the world be a better place after this whole thing gets over? I'm not so sure, because unfortunately, humankind has not always learnt its lessons, is what
not
I
always. Yeah.
see. Yeah.
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 And
And
I'm still optimistic because I think the least thing we can do is find a way to survive and learn from this. At least a few people will learn, and at least a few people will become humbler. I'm one of them because I'm realizing all the knowledge in the world that I had is not helping under these circumstances in many
no,
cases.
that's true. But see, that's because you are humble, and most of the world is, which is why the world is still surviving, right? If all were as arrogant as some of us are, then the world would not survive. The sad part
True.
is, people in positions of power and influence are probably the most arrogant, which is the sad part,
And that's where the
right?
humbling is. That's
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
And
So
I'm glad I'm
it's
not
one.
running a company right now. It would have been very, very difficult. You
Yeah,
are an
it would have.
independent, and so am I. Life is much easier.
Yeah,
There's
I
no
can
fear
appreciate.
of
I mean, when it's easier for us to pass judgment when we don't have to
exactly.
face, but we also look at it from a new angle, right? So,
Yeah, yeah.
any case, great. Thanks, Shankar. It's been a very good experience. We must connect again whenever
We will
it's
meet as
convenient to
soon
you.
as possible because Bombay is the nearest big city for me, but I'm waiting
Sure.
for, I don't want to get quarantined in Bombay right
Yeah,
now.
that's true. No, and I think right now that it's still not a good time to
No.
really step out, if you ask me. Yeah.
So please stay in
All
touch
right.
and see you
Yes, we
soon.
will. Thanks and good luck.
Thanks.
Thanks. Bye.